We are on lesson 1-2, which is solving equations with variables on both sides. The success criteria is also on the top part of your note sheet. And notice I do kind of try to disguise the steps as the success criteria, and I put them in order. So in order to be able to effectively solve these problems that you'll be quizzed on tomorrow, actually, you need to be able to create an equation to represent a real world problem, to distribute if needed, combine like terms, move the variable to one side, solve for the variable, and then determine the number of solutions. So these first 5 things we are already covered. The first one's probably the hardest one, is setting up the equation if it doesn't give it to you automatically. And then we're going to be talking about the last one, which is figuring out if an equation has one solution, no solution, or infinitely many solutions. So all of that you need to be able to do for tomorrow's quiz. If you were absent yesterday, you missed the first part of the lesson, so do make sure that you watch it so you can do those notes that are in your Explore page of this lesson and that first example. I am recording right now, and I will upload this afternoon, and it'll be in that slide. I did already assign the practice, so that is in the Savvas app through Clever. All right, but I put your score in Schoology, and then that's how I sync it up to Infinite Campus. So when in doubt, always check Schoology for what you're supposed to do. If you click on the assignment link, it'll tell you directions for where to go to complete that assignment if it's not directly in Schoology. All right, but I put everything in Schoology just so you just have to go one place to know what you need to do. All right, I've been pretty easy on you guys, just so far giving you points for completing it. Make sure that if it's marked as missing and you're like, hey, I know I worked on it, make sure that you hit submit when you're done. So if it says in progress, and I have a ton of kids that are in progress, that means you're not finished. I'm not going to click on every single one in the trash can, please. I'm not going to click on every single one to see how far you got and give you points that way. I'll wait till you're completely finished, which means you have to hit submit when you're finished to get the points. So if that's you, make sure you submit your assignment later in the trash can. All right, here's instructions in case you forget how to access the homework. So there's no excuses for why you don't know how to access it. So the hope is that pretty soon I'll be able to just put whatever score you're getting into the grade book. So it'll start being graded for accuracy. Because with that extra support at the bottom, the show me an example and help me solve this, there's really no reason you guys should be getting less than 100% on those. So if you are, make sure you start working to get a higher score, actually going through all the problems, trying to get the right answer so that you don't get marked off on your homework. All right, here's the schedule for assessments this week. So far, we are on schedule. So you will have a quiz tomorrow on what you learned today, which will be like the last half of class. Any questions? So, I mean, yeah, I'll give you time tomorrow to work on your practice, but it's probably in your best interest to work on it the night before. Any questions? So tonight, I mean. All right, so now look at this page. So here's the success criteria again. If you're struggling with any one of these, make sure that you reach out. But we're gonna start with some sort of like vocabulary activity at the beginning of every lesson. So take like a minute on your own and see how many of these that you can fill in by yourself. All right, this will start being kind of like a bell work from now on. So go through the list, see if you can match any of them, and we'll go over it in about a minute. So for number one, if an equation is true for all values of the variable, then it has what? Infinitely many solutions. If you picked a different answer, just make sure you fix it. Infinitely many solutions is the first answer. All right, so that means if no matter what number you plug in for x, it will be true on either side of the equal sign, then you have infinitely many solutions. Number two, any value that makes an equation true is what? A solution. That one should be easy. We've covered that one before. All right, so number 2 is solution. A mathematical sentence that states two quantities are equal is called an equation. So equal is that key part. All right, if it has an equal sign, then it's an equation. If it doesn't, it's just an expression. All right, so equations have equal signs. Number 4 is one that's a little more tricky, so we'll save that one for last. Number 5, if there's no value of x that makes the equation true, the equation has no solution. All right, so no matter what I plug in for x, the equation will never be true. That's number 5. Number 6, a symbol, usually a letter that represents one or more numbers, is called a variable. So by process of elimination, what's the answer for number 4? Identity. So this one was the one that I think was probably the harder one for you, so that's why I saved it for last. That's a good test strategy. But this one goes hand in hand with number 1. So if you have infinitely many solutions, so you have an equation that is true for all values of a variable, it's also known as an identity. So you can think of it like with they both start with I, but that would be a good quiz question. All right, it says which one of these is an identity? Which one of these has infinitely many solutions? Questions on the vocab? All right, so moving right along. Yesterday we did an example similar to this in your workbook. We did that one together. So take like 1 minute and try this one that's on the teacher example sheet. Try this one on your own. I'll put the steps here if you want to copy down the steps. So you have them for your reference, but they're really similar to the success criteria. Step 1 is to do what? Distribute if necessary. Step 2 is to combine like terms. Step 3. This one's a new one, so it's move the variable to one side. And then step 4 would be to solve using inverse operator. All right, this is a process you guys should be going through every time you're solving these. In this order. And I did try and disguise it as your success criteria. So if you're in doubt tomorrow, what do I do next? Where do I start? Maybe look at the success criteria that's on the board here and see if that'll help you. All right, I know I have like 3 new students in here, so I'm just gonna kind of say it at the same time. Make sure, new students, that you are keeping a binder or like a folder even for right now until you get a binder, and keep everything that I'm giving you. All right, and you'll need it for the binder check, which is later this month. All right, whoever that is, just silence it. All right, but try to get an answer for A. Oh, the first step is always to do what? Distribute if necessary. Do I need to do that in example 1A? Yes, I do. So I need to do it over here. I'm distributing a -2. Yeah, go ahead, Haley. Fuck you. Sorry. Okay. So distribute if necessary. What are we distributing? A -2. So that means you multiply each of these numbers by -2. What's -2 times x? And then what's -2 times -4?
8.
A +8. All right, if you got something different when you distributed, make sure that you fix it. So get in the habit of keeping the sign that's in front of each term. Just a little mistake like that will change the rest of your answers. All right, and then bring everything else down. Questions so far? All right, so step 1 is done. What is step 2? So check for each side of the equation. Start with this side. Are there any like terms here? So again, keep the sign that's in front of each term. I have a +3x and a +4x. They combine to give me +7x. All right, bring down that -10. Now check the other side of the equal sign. Are there any like terms there? So what do I combine? And they combine to give me positive or negative. So make sure it says +17. And then we're going to bring down that -2x. All right, now we're done with step 2. So move on to step 3. I need to move the variable to one side. So if it's on both sides of the equal sign, you just need to move one of them. Does it matter which one? No, just pick which one you think would be easier. Which one do you think would be easier to move?
-2x.
And how can I move it?
Add 2x.
Good, that's what I would have picked as well. But you should still get the same answer if you decided to move the 7x. On the left side, also real quick, how come I wrote it under the 7x versus like over here under the 10? You want to keep your like terms with your like terms, and you don't know how often I see this. All right, so make sure, this is why I line it up with my like terms, because it goes with the 7x when it combines. So what's 7x plus 2x? 9x, good. Bring down everything else, -10. What happens to the 2x's on the side? Good, and it equals. All right, now this is something more manageable. Something like we did a week ago. So just solve using your inverse operations, starting with what's farther from the x. So do I get rid of the 9 or the 10 first? And I get rid of it by, and what you do to one side. Good. I know it's really repetitive. Repetition is the mother of all learning. Right? So it should be repetitive. You're doing the same process each time. On the right side, with 17 plus 10, one more thing we have to do, which is n x equals 3. All right, any questions? How can I check my answer if I wanted to? Plug it back in for X in your equation, see if you get the same thing on both sides. All right, and now that we're using calculators, hoping that's a little bit easier to do. We can just enter the whole thing at once. Like on the left side of the equal sign, and then again on the right side. Any questions? All right, I know some of you tried part B. This one I say for us to do together, but it's all right if you give it a try. Now, I've taught you guys how to multiply a fraction before, but this time I want you to practice with your calculators. Because sometimes the fraction isn't always as easy as 1/2. All right, so I know like, yeah, 1/2 is easy to do, but let's practice using our calculators. So if you don't have a handheld calculator, have your Chromebook out just like on the corner of your desk. Open up to Desmos.com. Desmos is the one you're allowed to use on the quiz. Alright, so Desmos.com, DESMOS.com. We're going to practice multiplying fractions. Alright, so first step is always to do what? Distribute. This time we're distributing a fraction. The first part you can't put in your calculator, so you just rewrite it. It's 1/2 n. But in your calculator, I want you to do 1/2 times -4. If you have a handheld calculator, or really in Desmos too, you can do this as well, just as a good rule of thumb. Always put your fractions in parentheses. All right, so this might be what it looks like on your screen. That is all right, but sometimes it's like you might get a weird fraction. That isn't always that easy. But yes, that's fine. All right, so everyone just practice entering it. I know it's an easy one to do in your head. So just practice entering it. If you entered it correctly, what should you have gotten? -2. If you're getting something other than -2, please ask so I can show you what you're doing wrong. All right, there's nothing worse than getting a question wrong because you used the calculator wrong. All right, questions? All right, now I'm just bringing everything else down. All we did was distribute. What's the next step? Combine like terms. I'm gonna erase this and move this over here. All right, but yes, combine like terms. Do I have any like terms to combine on this side of my equal sign? What do I combine? So again, keep the sign that's in front of each term. What's -2 minus 7? -9. And then bring down everything else. Do I need to combine like terms on the right side? So then just rewrite it. All right, step 2 is done. Step 3, we need to move the variable to one side. Doesn't matter which one you decide to move, which one do you think would be easier to move? All right, some say 1/2. All right, we can do that. How can I make it cancel on the left side? So subtract 1/2 n on each side. On the left side, the 1/2s cancel. So I have just -9. On the right side, if you're not good with subtracting fractions, you can also put this in your calculator. So we have -2 minus, and you're going to want to put this in parentheses, 1/2. Practice entering a fraction in the calculator. What do you get when you do that? -2.5. Okay, good. And I'm gonna put the decimal version because that's cleaner to look at. But yes, -2.5 is what you get. Questions there? All right, and then bring down the +6. All right. Now what can we do next? We're on step 4. So what do I get rid of first? The -2.5 or the 6? And I get rid of it by, do that on each side. -9 minus 6 is -15 equal to -2.5n. One more thing we have to do, which is divide by -2.5 on each side. And then on the left side, enter that in your calculator. What do we get on the left side? +6? Okay, good. Because a negative divided by negative is a positive. So my answer is n equals 6. All right, questions there? All right, so I'm going to give you one to try in your workbook. Oh, and I need to give a workbook to the new student. Hold on. So it's going to be on page 6. Example 1B. So example 1, part B. We did part A yesterday, so if you missed that one, watch the video and write that one down in your workbook. But try that out on your own. You can use a calculator. Yes. All right, so when you distributed the 5/8 fraction to both numbers, what's 5/8 times 16b? 10b. All right, if you got a number other than 10, please let me know so I can look at what you entered. All right, and then what's 5/8 times 24? Good, and it's positive, so put +15. Do I need to distribute on the other side? So do that. What did we get when we distributed the 6? Good. All right, I do see a lot of errors there. They forget that this one is a negative. So positive times a negative is negative. All right, and then bring down that +1 that's at the end. Good there? Now next step is to combine like terms. So look on each side of the equal sign. Do I need to combine anything on the left side? I'm just going to rewrite it. What about on the other side? What can I combine? And they combine to give me, and good, since it's negative, we put -5, bring everything else down. Good there? Now, step 3 is to move the variable to one side. So pick one, doesn't matter which one. Does that one have a variable? Okay, so how can I make that 16 cancel? Good, and if you decided to move the 10b, you're not wrong. You do not have to change it. You still get the same final answer. What's 10b minus 60? Good, bring everything else down. 40 plus 15 equals -5. Now we're just solving for the variable. So what do we get rid of first, the 4 or the 15? I get rid of it by subtracting. So do that on each side. Left side, you should just have For D, right side, we have -20. One more thing we have to do, which is, again, do that on each side. And what does D equal? -5. Sorry, 1 second, I set an alarm. All right. So if you got -5 on the first try, good job. If not, just see where the mistake was made. We do a lot of the same steps over and over again. So just figure out what step you're having trouble on. Any questions? All right. So then we are going to go back to the note sheet and look at the ones that are on the back. So another part of your success criteria, which we haven't covered yet, but we're about to cover, is figuring out the number of solutions that something has. All right, so your options are 1 solution, no solution, or infinitely many. Notice there's not like 2 solutions in there. If you see that on a quiz, don't pick that one. All right, it's gonna probably be one of the other 3 options. So let's look at this first one together. Do we need to distribute in this one? So then move on to step 2. Do we need to combine like terms in this one? We'll check each side of the equal sign. All right, no like terms on the left, any like terms on the right. So move on to step 3, which is to move the variable to one side. All right, so just pick one, doesn't matter which one. Do you want to move the -x or the +x? And how can I make that -x cancel? All right, and then we'll do that on each side. That's what I would have picked as well, but again, you could have done it the other way. On the left side, we have 3. What happens to the x's on the left? Good. On the right side, what's x plus x? Good, and then bring down that -3. So just a reminder, if the coefficient isn't written, it's 1. All right, so 1x plus 1x is 2x. All right, now solve for x. What do I get rid of first? I get rid of it by, so do that on each side. 3 plus 3 is 6. On the right side, it's equal to 2x. -3 plus 3 cancels, so it's just 2x. One more thing we have to do, which is to do that on each side. What is 6 divided by 2? So x equals 3 for my final answer. Now, how would you classify that with these options? Is it 1 solution? So all the examples we've done up to this point have had just 1 solution. All right, so if you get x equals like a specific number, it's just 1 solution. Questions there? All right, so let's see about what this next one will equal, and you'll start to see certain patterns. So for this one right next to it, what do we do first? So do that, do it on your paper. Then see if you get the same thing that I do. All right, if you distributed correctly, you should have had 4x minus 8, right? All right, and then bring everything else down. What are we noticing at this point? All right, the exact same, right? It's not even like a little bit different. It's not like a different sign. You know, both the 4x's are positive and then it's minus 8. So if you recognize that, it can indicate which one of these it's going to be. But let's keep solving just in case. So do I have any like terms that I need to combine? So then I need to move one of these variables. Do you want to move the one on the left or the one on the right? All right, so subtract 4x on each side. What happens on the left side? Good, so on the left side, I just have -8. On the right side, what happens to the 4x? Cancel again, and then that equals -8. So look at the statement that you have here, because equations are statements. We're saying that -8 equals -8. Is that true or false? So if the variables cancel, and what you end up with is a true statement like this, then you have how many solutions? Good. If they didn't equal each other, it would be no solution. But since they do equal each other, we have infinitely many solutions. All right, and that's your answer. You don't say like x equals this and whatever. It is infinitely many solutions. All right. Questions? So go ahead, I'll give you a minute. You can try the one that is in this box down here. So just try this one. And we'll see what you get. Distribute, do we need to do that in this problem?
Yes.
So what did you get when you distributed that 5? 5 minus 5x, right? All right, so good, 5 minus 5x. If you didn't get that, make sure you just fix it. Now, it looks similar to what is on the other side, but is it the same? It is not the same. So you can't just see that and say infinitely many solutions. You do have to keep going. All right, so let's keep going. Do I have any like terms I need to combine on either side? No, so then we're on to step 3, which is move the variable. Which one do you want to move, the negative one or the positive one? How can I move this one? So we're going to add 5x to each side. On the left side, we have 5. And what happens to the 5x? Cancel out. On the right side, we have 5. And then what's 5x plus 5x? 10x. I did have some people think that it canceled, so it did not. All right, now that we're here, solve for x. So what do we get rid of first? And I get rid of it by, so do that on each side. What's 5 minus 5? And since there's nothing else on this side, I'm actually going to write the 0 this time. On the right side, what's 5 minus 5? And it cancels because there is something else over here, so I don't need to write plus 0 there. All right, now one more thing we need to do, which is to do what? Good, because that's opposite of multiplying by 10. So do that on each side. What's 0 divided by 10? It is 0. All right, which equals x. So how many solutions do I have in this one? One solution. All right, if you thought no solution, check again. The variable did not cancel out. So we just keep solving like we normally do. 0 divided by 10 is 0. Questions? All right, we'll do the last one together and I'll kind of spoil the surprise for you. What do you think this answer is going to be? No solution, right? Because I would, of course, want to show you at least one example with no solution. But let's see what that looks like. What do we do first? Good, so distribute that 2 to both numbers. 2 times x is, 2 times -7 is. Good. Then bring everything else down. We get x plus 2x minus 14 equals 3x minus 7. All right, so that's step 1, it's distribute. Step 2, do I have any like terms that I need to combine? On this side, right? What are my like terms? So add them together, keep the sign that's in front of each one. What is x plus 2x? Good. Bring everything else down. Do I have to combine anything on the right side? So just rewrite it then. All right, now move on to the next step, which is move the variable to one side. Which one do you want to move? The one on the left or the one on the right? All right, sure. Let's move this one, do that on each side. On the left side, what's 3x minus 3x? So it cancels there, we're just left with -14. And what happens on the right side with the 3x's? Cancel again, so we're just left with -7. So evaluate your statement. So if the variables cancel, see what you have left. Does -14 equal -7? No, so this is a false statement. How many solutions do I have then? Good. So no matter what I do, whatever I plug in for x, it will never equal the same. Not even 0 would work. All right, so it has no solution. Questions there? All right. You have a couple U-tries in your workbook, so that'll probably take you till the end of class. So it is on page 6, I believe, still. And it's problems that are really similar to what we just did. So the U-tries will be on page 6 of your workbook. Example 2, both parts. Yes. We will finish the notes tomorrow, like at the beginning of class. You'll work on your practice a little bit, and then you'll take your quiz at the end. Sound good? All right, so if you don't think you can get 12 problems done in like 30 minutes tomorrow, or like 20 minutes, then do some for homework. Yes. In my